Welcome to another one of my survival videos. I'm Bob Mayer. This one's about cold weather preparation and survival. It's pretty critical, especially depending on where you live, because cold can kill. If you don't have a regulated body temperature, you can die in about 3 hours. And cold and wet is an even more deadly combination. We'll talk about that. And the reason I focus on this is because I commanded an A team in 10th Special Forces Group. We were the Special Forces unit oriented towards Europe, and we spent a lot of time working on it. Every year we went to winter warfare training, high altitude training. I went to international mountain climbing school, actually learned to ski while I was in 10th Group, cold weather survival. That picture below is my team up above 10,000 feet in altitude after parachuting in on an operation. And there's two types of cold. There's a lot of variables, but uh, you've got your dry cold and your wet cold. If anything, I'd rather be in the dry cold. We took more cold weather casualties training up in New England in the Adirondacks than we did in the Rocky Mountains at a higher elevation. People in Alaska know about wet cold out there in the tundra. Because one of the keys is staying dry. One key is always keep your head covered. You lose a large percentage of heat from your unprotected head, neck, wrist, and ankles. I've had people argue this. They say studies say that you don't lose any more heat from your head than other parts of your body. My take on it is you got a lot of blood vessels in that head close to the skin if you ever had a head wound, and heat rises. So I'm just saying, we're getting nothing. You can't beat the old wool watch cap. Key to wearing clothing in cold weather is layering it. Okay, you start with what's closest to your body and you work your way out. You not only want to keep warm, but you want to keep dry. So we'll talk about the three layers: inner, middle, and outer. The inner layer is what's against your skin. When I first showed up in group, we were actually issued the old winter warfare gear, Mickey Mouse boots, overwhites. It was pretty bad. We started transitioning then to the more modern stuff that people see now, probably propylene underwear, silk, wool, polyester, something that wicks the water away from your body. It's usually very light, but it should hold no more than 1% of your moisture. Never cotton. Remember this. Cotton is rotten. Middle layer is your insulation. This is what's going to keep most of your heat in. But it also should have some wicking capability to get the water out, further out. And think about several garments instead of one, because you want to be able to vary how much protection you have on from the cold, especially if you're going to be, doing something that exerting yourself and sweating. The outer layer has two purposes. It's to protect you from wind and also to keep everything dry. It should have some ability to wick, like Gore-Tex. If it only repels rain and wind, it's called a shell. Usually, though, if you get a jacket, it has an insert that can be removed on the inside to help keep you warmer. Remember the acronym COLD. Keep clothing clean. Dirty clothes don't absorb warmth. That's one reason why we always carry a lot of socks. Changing your socks out a lot to keep your feet warm. Avoid overheating, because overheating, you start sweating, so you're making yourself wet. L, keep clothes loose and in layers. Loose clothes trap air inside of them to help to keep you warm, and keep clothing dry. Yeah, people tend to forget about sanitation in the winter. In the summer we sweat, we get dirty, we get nasty. We don't think we're getting dirty, but we are. Okay, keep your clothing clean. Don't overheat. I used to give time warnings before we'd move out and have to throw our rucks on and get on our skis and move out, so people could strip down, take off their outer coat, usually a medium later. Sometimes we just took off with just the undershirt on, because we knew in about 5 minutes of cross-country skiing with a 100-pound ruck, you are going to start sweating if you have too much on. Wear it loose and in layers. Don't restrict your blood flow. This is especially true for your feet. Don't have your boots too tight. And keep it dry. This is a critical thing in all aspects. Always keep yourself dry. If you do get wet, Drying your clothes out is critical no matter what they say. If you're out in the wilderness, in the cold for an extended period of time, you're eventually going to have to make a fire. I don't care how tactical they want you to be and all the rest of that stuff. You got to dry stuff out. You got to dry your food out. Sometimes you have to dry, unfreeze your canteen. You can also put damp socks and mittens next to your body so your body heat dries them out. Hypothermia is the lowering of the body temperature faster than you can produce heat. The initial symptom is shivering. Then it gets uncontrollable. If you've ever seen one become hypothermic, the body's core temperature falls to about 96 degrees. That's bad. If it gets 90 to 95, it's really bad, and people start really acting funny. You've got to get the medical help. If you get below 90 to 86, you have muscle rigidity, unconsciousness, and it barely looks like they're alive. If it falls below 77 degrees, death is almost certain. Some people are more susceptible to hypothermia. Elderly, children, those under the influence of alcohol, that old thing of taking a shot of alcohol to warm yourself, bad idea. Okay, don't do that. Here's your cold water survival times, Jack on Titanic. If this is the water temperature, how long before you come unconscious? Time to death. Hypothermia, shivering, confusion, uncoordinated actions. Treatment, get into shelter, build a fire. If you don't, remove wet clothing and replace with dry. Put the person in a sleeping bag. We were saying cuddle up with your ranger buddy. Sip on a warm beverage. Nothing with caffeine or alcohol, though. Not coffee. Hot chocolate, maybe. Do gentle exercises. Have someone who isn't hypothermic cuddle up with the person who is. If you have hand warmers, put them in the same place ice would go for heat stroke. Neck, armpits, and groin. Frostbite is the result of frozen tissues. Light frostbite, the skin takes on a dull whitish pallor. Deep frostbite, if you see some of the pictures from people on Everest, it's pretty nasty. Best prevention is use the buddy system. Check your buddy's face, hands, and they check yours. If you're alone, periodically cover your nose and lower part of your mouth with your mittened hand. It can happen fast. I had a touch of frostbite. Just taking my gloves off to help load a casualty onto a Black Hawk helicopter in freezing conditions and several feet of snow. I mean, we pulled in, I pulled my gloves off, stuffed them in my pocket, jumped out, went and helped load the casualty, and it was not good. Those blades put a lot of air, wind chill factor coming down. Following things will help keep you warm. Maintain circulation in your face by twitching and wrinkling your skin. Warm with your hands, ears, you move your ears, warm with your hands. Move your hands inside your gloves. You usually want to wear mittens if you have to. Put your hands in close to your body. Feet is really dangerous. Make sure your socks stay dry. A loss of feeling in your hands or feet is a sign of frostbite. These are the symptoms of frostbite. Treatment, medical attention ASAP. That's everything that can go wrong. But if medical attention isn't available within the next 2 or 3 hours, get into a shelter and build a fire. Put body parts into tepid water, not hot. Don't put it into really hot water. If you submerge in hot water, you're going to cause extreme pain and even shock. Do not expose frostbite to flame. Don't pull your lighter out and try to do it. The water will cool quickly, drawing the cold from the body, so change it often. When drying frostbite injuries, pat them. Don't rub a towel against them. That causes more damage to the skin. You may end up with blisters. As with all blisters, don't pop or lance them, as that increases the chances of infection, and apply a loose sterile dressing over the affected area. Dehydration is a big problem in cold weather. We don't feel like drinking like we do in hot weather. You're going to be unaware that you're losing moisture. On my water presentation, I talk about how much moisture we lose just existing, just breathing. You lose a lot of moisture. That thing you see in the air when you exhale, that's water. Okay? One way to tell if you become dehydrated is to check the color of the urine in snow. That's, as a leader, that's one of your jobs. Walk around. If it's really dark water, you're probably dehydrated. You can also smell it. Sometimes you can really smell a sharp odor of urine when someone's dehydrated. You can also do the pinch test. Pinch your skin on the back of your hand. Let it go. If it stays pinched longer than normal, you're dehydrated. when you're operating in cold weather, some of the things I learned the hard way, it is a totally different environment than other places. Shelter is critical, usually in survival situations. Shelter is probably of the 4 critical things, one of the last, but not in cold weather. It could be your number 1 priority. A snow cave or a snow trench. I know everybody wants to build that igloo out of blocks of ice, but really we just would dig a snow trench, glaze the insides with a candle, put a pad down. You don't want to lay on the ground or on the snow. Cold tends to set in low areas, so avoid the bottom of gullies and ravines. The big thing is you want to get out of the wind. Everything in cold weather takes twice as long as it normally does. Snow is extremely difficult to move through, even on skis, especially if you're carrying a rucksack. Everybody never notice you always downhill ski, you don't uphill ski, but if you have to move cross country, moving uphill is really, 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 really hard, let me tell you. Food and water freeze. You don't think about that, but if you have a canteen or a Camelback or whatever, you got to put it next to your body, or else you're just carrying a block of ice around, which is kind of a waste. We also put our next meal, usually in the thigh pocket on our pants, to warm it up so we could thaw it out. Weapons sweat. If you keep them near you when you're sleeping, we always put our weapons outside on a rack so they would stay frozen. The bottom line on cold weather is be prepared and understand the key principles of being in the cold. Treat it with respect, because like I said, in 3 hours without shelter, it can kill you. I got links to all my gear, free apps, everything on my website, the QR code, or you go to that direct link right there. That they're all this is one of my survival books that I think is important. You're not going to find another one out there where you can evaluate where you live. This is becoming more important with climate change. The Preparation Survival Guide has all you need to know, especially the preparation part. If you want to see how disasters happen and how to avoid them in your organization and your life, I've got 21 great disasters there. I list the 6 cascade events in each one that leads up to the final event, the 7th event, the disaster itself. These are all my survival books. Donner Party, they understood cold a little bit. And St. Francis Dam Failure for engineers, those are free. My little black books. And this is my background. I appreciate you listening to me. And again, please sign up for my YouTube channel. Stay safe out there.